United States, we were completely embarrassed and humiliated at this disastrous summit between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin that happened in Alaska yesterday. There was nothing that came out of it, no ceasefire, no results, nothing more than Donald Trump, who's going to relay the maximalist offer from Vladimir Putin that says he wants to deal with the root causes of the war. Basically, that it's the same offer he's been making for years, which is Ukraine has to agree to give up its sovereignty, disarm, and not even speak its own language in that country before Russia will agree to a ceasefire or the cessation of any hostilities whatsoever. Now, this happened in Alaska. It happened at Elmendorf Air Force Base. This has symbolic importance because Alaska used to be part of Russia, and it was lawfully acquired, of course, purchased by the United States. But Russia and their nationalist ideology, which is predominant in their government, believes it should somehow be taken back and be brought back into the Russian Empire. It's part of this imperialist mindset. Same reason they invaded Ukraine, the same reason they threatened Poland, the Baltic states, and want to recreate the entire Soviet Union. And on top of that, Elmendorf Air Force Base is where American planes, fighter jets, take off to defend our skies from the incursions by Russian bombers, which have been taking place for decades. So to have this mass murdering, again, war criminal show up, who's the leader of the very nation that's been threatening you, that you've been taking off to fly out and protect against, and now you have to serve him and roll out the red carpet treatment, as we will see, is intended and was effective as a slap in the face. So here we go. Let's get to it. We're going to look at some of the lead up to their initial meeting between Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, and the staff on both sides, how that completely fell apart, how it was totally strange, and the results leading to Donald Trump having what appears to be a narcissistic collapse. And finally, we will talk about the outlines of what appear to be, an offer from Russia, although it's not entirely clear, and the next steps, including Zelensky coming to the Oval Office on Monday, I believe with the leader of Norway, if I'm remembering correctly. So that's where we're at and how we're going to take through this video. So here we go. Let's hit it. So the first thing have you see here, look, American troops rolling out the red carpet for the baby killer, for the person who threatens America, who does, computer hacking, arson, and directs all these other things, not just against America, but against our allies. Here you see what I was talking about. These are Russian bombers. There's an American fighter jet that took off from Elmendorf Air Force Base, where they were holding this this summit. And, again, this is what we're dealing with. This is where the situation, rolling out the red carpet, and the people that threaten us now, our soldiers, have to take care of them and treat them like kings. Here we have Donald Trump, utterly ridiculous. Look at him. He's clapping his hands for the baby killer, for the war criminal. I mean, completely inappropriate. He's being treated, he's like the King of England, or like the head of state for, the United, some like France or something. Look at this. Look how happy Putin is, just walking over there, shaking hands. It's like they're old college buddies and seeing each other for after a long time, and maybe they're even family. I'm surprised they didn't give each other a hug. Here you have this backdrop that was created by somebody on Trump's staff, and the reason this is important is to put that there, saying pursuing peace, and then you have Donald Trump in front of it smiling, because he really thought this was going to be successful. That's why he's acting like that. That's why they had this. Because if you create this and you stand in front of that smiling, and you don't know if it's going to work out, and it doesn't, which it didn't, you're going to look like a complete moron, which is exactly what happened. But what could be more outrageously false than this war criminal who's caused more suffering in the world than anybody else since probably Adolf Hitler in World War II? That's like saying, having Jeffrey Dahmer stand next to you in front of a banner that says fighting crime. Come on. And then the next thing you're going to see is the stage that was put together. Again, it was like Donald Trump had set up this Super Bowl event, Alaska 2025, the F-22s, pulled out of their hangars. This entire thing, not only is it like he's setting himself up because all this hype and trying to make it a big deal, it's really inappropriate for a war where people are getting killed every day. Innocent people, women and children are dying. There's thousands and thousands of Ukrainian kidnapped kids. This is a tragic situation created by, again, an evil dictator. And what you have here is it's being treated like a sports event. Incredibly disrespectful. Now, here you got Vladimir Putin. He's riding in Donald Trump's limousine. I mean, unbelievable. Listen to how Putin responds to a question from a reporter about, will you stop killing civilians? And more importantly than his reaction is, look how Donald Trump protects him and doesn't even make him answer.
President Putin, will you stop killing civilians?
It was really just the look.
President Putin, will you stop killing civilians?
It was really just the
Okay,
look.
so he absolutely heard that. He just didn't want to answer it. Now, we get to hear a reporter talking about how this immediately fell apart right when they first went into the conference room. This was supposed to be an all-day event with a luncheon and, a press conference afterwards. This is a full day, a packed event, right? They're there for a couple hours tops. And what you should see this reporter is going to talk about is there were people coming out from the American delegation coming out of the room who were basically like having like nervous breakdowns. I mean, I don't know what happened, what the Russians showed Donald Trump, told Donald Trump to make Caroline Leavitt, to walk out of there looking like she's seen a ghost and have visible negative reaction. Considering the fact that she stands in front of the American people and the White House press corps and lies every day like a complete sociopath.
On the faces of a lot of the American delegation here. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, Steve Witkoff, who came into the room, then left quickly, then came back in. Leavitt appeared to be a bit stressed out, anxious. Their eyes were wide, almost ashen at times. Those were some of the sort of images that will stick with me as we leave here. This was not the way the president likes to do things. He likes to be the producer of this presidency. He got that in the first half of the day, but when he was behind closed doors with Vladimir Putin, it looks like he didn't come away with anything that he claimed he wanted. He said he'd go home unhappy if there was no ceasefire. He didn't come away with anything that he claimed he wanted. He said he'd go home unhappy if there was no ceasefire.
If there was no ceasefire, he didn't get that, And then, in fact, later he completely reversed whether he even wanted that. I wonder why he changed so much on such a basic, fundamental thing. This is Caitlin Collins tweeting about, again, Steve Witkoff. Like
conference, there were no questions taken by either leader.
For the conference room, took a seat, and then came out a few minutes later. What you're going to see here is Fox News talking about Donald Trump getting steamrolled.
Brett, is it safe to say, since he didn't come out and said there's a ceasefire, a cessation of violence, that that is something we didn't get all the way there?
I think they would have led with it. It would have been the thing that they would have led with, that we agree to a ceasefire. We didn't hear it. And I think that could be disappointing.
Jackie, I was surprised no questions. I was surprised no details on what progress was made.
I think you and me both, Brian, and everyone else in this room was also surprised. There were a few things that were very unusual. You had Putin come out and address the press first. I mean, we are on U.S. soil here. Usually it is the leader of the country, the host country of a summit, that speaks first and addresses the room in their language. But Putin started right off in Russian, and we all had the room in their language. But Putin started right off in Russian, and we all had.
Trump is supposed to go first as the host of as the host nation at the press conference after this shortened event, and not only did he not answer questions, he kind of went out there all crushed. And Putin came out and started talking in Russian, just babbling for like 8 minutes about all the ridiculous things, root causes of the war, all his imperialistic ideology, and again, just total slap in the face. For Donald Trump, but also like as an American, regardless of your politics, I don't want to say like that. That's ridiculous for America too. We're supposed to be the country, the leader of the
get our headsets on and listen to him rattle off this diatribe. There was something that he said that was a little bit alarming, I thought, that seems like some of the things that he has done in the past, setting up false flags and that kind of thing, saying that we hope that Ukraine doesn't do anything to sabotage the progress that we made today, knowing full well that Ukraine has agreed to a ceasefire unconditionally for the last several months, and it has been Russia that has not agreed to a ceasefire. There were some things that Putin said that are always cause for concern. When he references things like root causes,
I know.
It's always a reference back to his ultimate goal of taking all of Ukraine. It did not seem like things went well, and it seemed like Putin came in and steamrolled, got right into what he wanted to say, and got his photo next to the president and then left. Certainly President Trump, who is the host and who is the president, would not want to, I think, enable something that would make him look weak. But would not want to, I think, we are eagerly awaiting to hear the back.
Which what she's saying is it made him look weak. Okay, the next thing you're going to see, kind of in the final segment here, is the narcissistic collapse of Donald Trump. You can see on stage right there. I mean, he looks like crap. He looks so tired. John Bolton was being interviewed about after this summit, and he said, "I've never seen him so tired and so like deflated and defeated." You know, in all the time they've been together, and all the time he's been in government watching Trump. So, you know, it's very noticeable. What he does, though, is he was so desperate in this interview you're about to see with Sean Hannity, a little clip, is that so desperate to try to find some item of positivity that came out of this disastrous summit. That what does he do? Does he talk about, you know, something that a concession he got on Ukraine, or anything about Ukraine, or anything about the war? No. He starts talking about how Vladimir Putin, this, you know, the paragon of election integrity, tongue in cheek, was told him that Donald Trump actually probably won the 2020 election because there was mail-in voting and there's lots of fraud with that. Now, to repeat the talking points on election integrity of someone who kills his political
Background on that.
opponents and steals every single election,
one of the most interesting
is
things
insane for an American president to do this.
Your election
This should be an impeachable offense.
was rigged because you have mail-in voting. He said mail-in voting every election. He said no country has mail-in voting. It's impossible to have mail-in.
Well, Vladimir Putin says your election's rigged, then it definitely must be. Okay, again, then we have these 3 posts from social media. There were more, but it was clearly the staff of Donald Trump, knowing that he got, you know, just totally annihilated by the Russians, and wanting to inflate his collapsed ego. So you have this first one saying, "Oh, historic." There's nothing historic about that event other than the fact you are revealing to a former KGB spy close-up details of the F-22, and that you got humiliated and made a just complete fool of in front of the entire world. That's what's historic about that. So funny. I don't know who's posting this stuff, but it doesn't make any sense. Have a great weekend, based Patriots. Look at him. He's got his little arm up, weakly holding it. Just looks like an old, defeated man. Look at his little eyebrows and his scowl. Totally crushed. And then finally, this ridiculous thing. Leader, statesman, visionary, pioneer, 2-term president of the United States. Forever proud, all caps. It was like the official account, but it was posting to Donald Trump himself, rather than their hundreds of thousands, millions of followers. Now, what we're going to see next, I told you that Donald Trump and the Russians left early. This is important because not only did they try to create this huge spectacle in the beginning, they tried to like wine and dine him. So look, they even called, this is the menu. And by the way, there's a story in NPR. This is another sort of Signalgate type event where the Trump administration is mishandling classified information, private information. Somebody at the State Department was at a hotel out near this in Anchorage, near this Air Force base, and was printing out State Department documents, and including a menu and some other things which were actually important and secret and should not have been provided. You know, they're not public information, and left him on the printer at like this hotel. I don't know, Holiday Inn or something like this. But look at the top. In honor of His Excellency, President of the Russian Federation, blah, blah, blah. You see, like, all the trouble they went to try to make, Vladimir Putin feel like he was such a special person, so he would agree to something finally. I mean, it's like making dinner for someone, like, on a date, and they just stand you up. Pathetic, okay? And here's how you can see they left early and how much time was left when the Russians, vacated and went back home. You see how it says at the top row, second row from the top, it said, 2:45, and then there is when the working lunch is, okay? They only made it to the 2:45 working lunch, again, all the way to the right, second row down, and all that time from 2:45 to 5:45, they didn't even do that. They were gone, okay? Again, totally humiliating. And finally, we have this position statement from the EU in coordination with Ukraine. The reason what this is about is there's been some reporting in the media today that what Trump may talk to Zelensky about when he meets with him on Monday is that relaying the offer by Russia to Ukraine. Again, basically reverting or turning the American president into basically like an errand boy who carries water for the Russian dictator. He's like carrying a message. It's pathetic. But what there's some indication that what the Russians offer is going to be is what it's always been. Address the root causes of the conflict, which is basically just capitulation by Ukraine. And this statement reaffirms the EU's support of Ukraine, the support of its territorial integrity, and the support of the fact that it needs ironclad security guarantees, not just promises, but actual weapons, and actually, hopefully joining NATO. Those are the only two types of security guarantees that would be worth anything. Promises that are security guarantees, they got those way back in 1994 from the United States when Ukraine gave up its nuclear arsenal, and they've been basically worthless. So, this is where we're at. Europe is standing with Ukraine. We'll see what happens on Monday when Zelensky shows up at the Oval Office. Fortunately, I believe the president of Norway, who's played golf with Trump, seems to have a good relationship with him, will be accompanying Zelensky. So we will not have a repeat of what happened in the Oval Office with Zelensky and Vance, which was one of the lowest moments in my lifetime in American history. So that's where we are. I'll update it, you guys, when we learn more. Thanks for watching. Glory to Ukraine. And God bless America, because we surely need it.